What is good, everybody? It is the BetSided early leans of the week for NFL and for college football. Glad to have you with us. Ben Heisler with Ian McMillan, Donovan Smoot, Peter Dewey, and Reed Wallach. The gang is all here once again for week 12 in college football and week 11 in the NFL. Another strong week for both. Currently 28-20 against the spread in the NFL. College football, another winning week, taking us to 28-26-1 overall. So if you're joining us for the first time, we've been here every week throughout the course of the season. We go through our favorite early leans along with our best bets for the NFL and for college football. We'll go around the horn. If you like these videos, like what we're doing, make sure you guys are checking out the work over at BetSided, fansided.com/BetSided. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and give a thumbs up and subscribe right here on YouTube. So let's kick things off. National Football League heading into week 11. Ian, of course, is starting with the late game on Sunday night. The Chargers on Sunday Night Football are at home at SoFi Stadium. They're 5-point favorites against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not sure at this time as to whether or not Ben Roethlisberger will play, but one could also make the argument that it doesn't really make much of a difference. So, Ian, where are you going in this game with a total of 47?
Yeah, I believe this line did open at -5. At least I thought that's what it was this morning. I just checked right before we started recording. It's up to -6. Still like the Chargers in this spot. Listen, I bet against the Steelers on Monday Night Football. I took Bears money line. I lost that due to a last-second field goal and just the worst officiating performance I've ever seen in my life. Then I was on Detroit money line against the Steelers this past week, and I pushed it because it was a tie, which almost never happens in the NFL. But my point is, this Steelers team is not good, and I refuse to bet on them. I will continue to bet against them for the rest of the NFL season. Their offense, listen to this, 27th in yards per play, 26th in points per play, 28th in yards per pass attempt. And then their defense, which everyone thinks is one of the best defenses in the league, 14th in opponent yards per play, 25th in opponent yards per carry. Their defense isn't that good either. I'm on the Chargers all day on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, understandable that the line moved to Chargers -6. Pittsburgh, by the way, if you look at WinBet, currently dead last in their projections and odds to win the AFC North. My, how the mighty have started to fall. Donovan, I'm going to you next. Carolina Panthers currently a 3.5-point favorite. They are at home against the Washington football team with a total of 43.5. Cam Newton, he's back.
Guys, I'm going with Super Cam. I'm so excited. I'm just super excited that Cam's back in the league. But I'm going with Carolina this week. Cam he's reported he's going to get a lot of the first team reps this week. And so he's on track to be the starter. I think if he starts, even if he doesn't start, I like PJ Walker in the spot. But him and McCaffrey are a nice duo. They have rhythm. McCaffrey is he's getting back into his rhythm. And I know Washington beat Tampa Bay last week. They suck. They're not a good football team. That win means absolutely nothing to me. The defense is atrocious. They're around bottom, fifth, bottom sixth in points per game, yards per play, and then they're dead last in opponent third down percentage. Meanwhile, Carolina, the one thing that we talk about every single week with Carolina is their defense and how elite it is. So they still have that going for them. I don't think even Cam coming off of 1 week, there's no way that Cam can be worse than what Sam Darnold was giving Carolina. So I think the Panthers are in a really good spot. They've covered in 2 of their last 3 games. So I really like this for the Panthers. Also, Washington, worst record along with the New York Jets against the spread this year, just 2-7 so far heading into week 11. Anybody that's been watching us and also has checked out the new Bet and Breakfast podcast, you would know that a couple episodes ago, Peter Dewey's character of Public Pete, we buried him. We thought he was dead. Turns out he's like the Undertaker. He's just rising right back up from the grave because the Packers are 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. And Peter, that the Packers are going to be a very public play, but you are back on them.
Yeah, Ben, I'd like to reintroduce everybody to our good friend Public Pete because he's back. But no, seriously, Packers this week, -2.5 on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. I love this spot at less than a field goal for the Packers. Minnesota's been really bad against the run this year. They've allowed the 5th most yards in the NFL and 4.7 yards per carry. I know Aaron Jones probably not going to play in this game. I think this is a good spot for A.J. Dillon to get a nice, easy test in his first start. And on top of that, Green Bay, they've won 3 of their last 4 games against Minnesota, including both in Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers covered in 9 straight games. I know he missed one of those, but this just feels like, I know Minnesota had a nice upset win, but I can't get to this number for them. The Packers are the better team. I'm taking them at less than a field goal all day. Give me Green Bay.
All right. Public Pete back to the crowd like Cam Newton. Very excited for what should unfold. Reed, I will head to you next. The New Orleans Saints, they're 1-point dogs headed to Philadelphia this week. A small total in that game of 44. We also talked about this game on the earliest episode of Bet and Breakfast on Monday. I'm also with you here. I like the Saints +1. I like getting them as an underdog this week.
Yeah, I dug into this game a little bit last night, and I just can't get there with this Eagles team. They've beaten up on kind of lesser competition, the Falcons, Panthers, Lions, and of course the Broncos last week. And I think that's kind of inflating this line a little bit. The Saints, meanwhile, covered without Alvin Kamara last week as 3-point underdogs against the Titans. And ultimately, this is all about the Saints' run defense. Number 2 in EPA per play on the ground, best defensive rush success rate. And this is an Eagles team that really wants to establish the run, top 10 in rush rate this year, have Jalen Hurts kind of open up the game with his legs to set the pass. I don't see it happening that way with the Saints defense. Again, Sean Payton, amazing as an underdog, 49-29-2 as a dog for his career with the Saints. So again, give me the Saints at any plus money price. I think they win this one outright.
Yeah, and of course, for anybody that was following last week, Saints ended up covering that game late against Tennessee. Ended up being a nice play for anybody that backed New Orleans there. For me, I'm going with another underdog as well. I like the Indianapolis Colts +7 on the road against the Buffalo Bills. The Colts, to me, they're kind of like that team that just always hangs around. They're sort of a pest, a thorn in your side. All the sort of easy comps that you want to throw out there, they're there. They're going to be that nosy neighbor that the Buffalo Bills just can't seem to push out the door. And they're going to hang around this entire game over in Buffalo. The Colts are 6-4 against the spread. Frank Reich is 4-0 against the spread, coming off an against the spread loss. Via Kent Sterling in games that Josh Allen has been sacked 3 times. Buffalo has lost all of those games. Colts pass defense has been much better over their last 6 games. And also, Indianapolis is undefeated when Jonathan Taylor rushes for 80 yards or more. Last several games, 145, 107, 70. That was the loss to the Titans, followed by 172 and 116. He's averaging 93.7 on the season on a per game level. I think it's a good opportunity, even though the Bills have had a very strong run defense. The Colts are committed to feeding Taylor the ball that allows him to control time of possession. So I like the Colts. I think they're sneaky on the money line this week as well, but I like them certainly at +7. Before we get to our college football plays, friendly reminder for you guys to make sure you check out some of our other videos here over on YouTube, including the Bet and Breakfast podcast. We'll have a brand new one coming out for you guys on Thursday. Every Monday and Thursday, we go live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys get a cup of coffee, some breakfast, eggs, bacon, whatever you want, and hang out with us as we go through some of our favorite betting plays of the day. Let's move on to college football. Ian, once again, I will go back to you. You're looking at the Big Ten. Big favorite for Ohio State. They are -18.5 against Michigan State with a nice high total in that game of 67.5.
To be honest, I'm buying in on this Ohio State team. I like them here to cover the spread. And to be honest, I like them to win the national championship. So I'll get to that in a second. But when you look at this offense, first in the country in yards per play, they're averaging 7.9 yards per play on offense. The next closest offense is Coastal Carolina, who's averaging 7.4. So Ohio State is averaging half a yard more per play than any other team in the country. That's pretty significant. Their defense is pretty good too. 22nd in opponent yards per play and 11th in opponent yards per carry. So they're very good at stopping the run, which is going to be important this weekend against Michigan State. So I like Ohio State to cover the number this week. And also, like I mentioned, kind of like them to win the national championship. I've also just bet on them today at +500 to do just that. So I'm buying in on the Buckeyes. We'll see how it goes.
All right, SMU +12. That's where we go next for Donovan's matchup. +12 against Cincinnati. We're still waiting for the Bearcats to really start to get out of their own way a little bit and trying to make a push for the national championship as far as the college football playoff rankings. And Donovan, looks like you're going to be fading them once again with SMU.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we, are looking for with this Bearcats team is to go out and just dominate everybody, and that's kind of what everyone's waiting on to, put them into the top 4. They're just not doing it. They're not blowing teams out the water. They've let a lot of teams, especially over the last month, hang around with them, and then they try and flip the switch in the second half. that's a dangerous way to play football. And I think it catches up to them this week. They haven't covered in their last 4 games. They're 1-3 against the over in the last month. Meanwhile, SMU has a great offense. They're top 5 in the country in points per game. They're top 10 in yards per play, and they could put up points with anybody. So I think if Cincinnati comes out and they do what they've been doing, SMU has a really good chance. I think this game is close, and I actually think SMU has a chance to win this game outright. I'll probably talk myself into it later in the week, but I really like this. I really like this spot for SMU.
All right, Peter, I head to you next. Air Force and Nevada with the Wolfpack 1.5-point favorites, but you're looking at the total, which currently sits at 53.5 for this one.
Yeah, Ben, this game, I think it's not a factor of 2 bad teams is what I'm taking under. It's more so Air Force's defense is legit. They're 11th in the country in points per game, and they run the ball a ton on offense. That is a recipe for an under game. You have a team that plays really good defense and likes to control the clock. They run the ball on 84.72% of their plays. And then on top of that, Carson Strong in Nevada, they win games through the air, and you're facing an Air Force defense that allows the 7th fewest passing yards per game at 177.6 and the 4th fewest yards per game in total in the country. If Air Force is going to stay in this game, which them only being 1.5-point dogs suggests, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think if they're going to get blown out, then it's going to be Air Force gets nothing, Nevada gets a ton. I think this stays close, and I think that hits the under.
All right, Reed, you're staying on the West Coast. Utah right now -3, a bit surprising for maybe some people that are just checking that line out. They're -3 at home against Oregon. Total in that game of 58.5. Who do you like for this Pac-12 matchup?
So Utah was one of my favorite teams going into the year, and it was a really shaky start. But against San Diego State in a losing effort earlier this season, Kyle Whittingham went to backup quarterback Cameron Rising and has completely turned around the team. They've won 6 of 7. And Whittingham gets this team, the Utes, playing their best ball in November. He's covered 6 of their last 8 games this month. And the offense is simply more dynamic than Rising. Their explosive play rate is up. And really, it's the offensive line. Top 5 in line yards. They average only 6 yards per carry. So they run. It sets up the deep passing game. And Oregon's offense hasn't traveled that well on the road. Quarterback Anthony Brown, 9-0 touchdown interception ratio at home. That goes from 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions on the road. I think he's shaking him. This is a legit Utah crowd. There's going to be a huge home field advantage here. I don't think it's enough. There's enough home field advantage baked into this number. So at -3, I'm taking it. I'll play this all the way up to 4.
All right, Utah -3 at home. Opportunity to go ahead and jump on the home team. You might hear the dog in the background. That's because I'm taking another underdog pick here with Indiana +7.5 against Minnesota. Maybe it's a little too familiar for me as an Indiana fan, but I feel like this line actually makes sense with a total of 43. I like the Hoosiers to finally get themselves a win against the spread. They were the #1 team in college football last year against the spread. This year, they've been one of the worst, 2-8 against the spread, 2nd worst in college football. This is a team that has predicated themselves on playing close games, being strong defensively, and last week against Rutgers, the bottom just fell out on their season, losing 38-3. I think this is a good opportunity with Minnesota having a slightly high inflated line. They've had some bad losses, a lot of inconsistencies this year. It's senior day for Indiana. And also their freshman quarterback, Donovan McCauley, he's actually played well up until that game. So he'll still provide a spark. They're getting some more guys back. Opportunity for Ty Freifogel, who was one of the better wide receivers in the Big Ten. In fact, he was preseason top first team for the Big Ten. I think the Hoosiers figure themselves out this week. So without further ado, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys checking us out here over at BetSided. For the rest of the gang, I'm Ben. We will talk to you next week. So long, everybody.